Now, we're going to move to my perspective guest on the programme. And my guest today is a world-renowned Irish journalist and author whose reporting from conflict zones and migration zones has earned really international recognition, including the Orwell Prize. In Sally Hayden's new book, there is also a love story. She turns rather away from the headlines and statistics to focus on something often overlooked in war reporting: love, connection and human resilience in the middle of catastrophe and against all odds. Well, Sally Hayden joins us now from London. Thanks very much for being with us on the programme. Your reporting rather is often focused on conflict, displacement, political violence. I mean, what made you want to write a book then specifically about love?
Hi, thanks so much for having me on. So this book, it's the result actually of around a decade of reporting, and it focuses on 9 different crisis situations, not just war, but also a natural disaster, an economic crisis, state-sanctioned repression. And it's effectively a book of love stories, not just romantic love, but love for family or community. And it came about, partially because I was struggling a bit myself, just kind of seeing a lot of cruelty in terms of the reporting that I was doing, but also because I realized very quickly doing this job that you do see love every day. You do see love in all of these situations. And I don't think we always convey that as journalists. And so I wanted to put together some of the examples that I've seen, some of the stories. So it's a book about love, but it's also about the dangers of dehumanization, the failures of journalism in some cases, the need for connection amid growing isolation in Western societies, and whether it's possible to perceive some kind of beauty in humanity despite the horrific turn that our world is taking. And I think as I said, I partially wrote it for myself, but I hope that it will reach other people as well, that it will make them reflect on, the news headlines, what lies behind them, and the fact that humans always exist at the center of geopolitics. It sounds very obvious, but it sometimes isn't.
How do you manage to adapt your style? I mean, it's very different, isn't it, being a journalist to writing this kind of book and writing about love as well?
I wouldn't say that it was an adaptation, to be honest, because I think that, like a lot of the themes that the book covers, it's not that the war doesn't exist, or it's not that the crisis doesn't exist. It's just a different way of looking at it. And actually, the people who spoke to me for the book, it's 9 different countries, from Iraq to Syria to Ukraine to Japan to Rwanda. People wanted to speak because they actually wanted to share experience, and interviewees that I talked to, a lot of them were like, actually, we're grateful that you're showing kind of the whole experience of humans in these situations, that it's not just, one particular thing. I think that people in crisis situations sometimes can feel like they're being flattened by, traditional news reporting, and getting to show kind of how people continue to exist in these situations, and the choices that they make as well, and the ways that they've that they're getting by. I think that was something that many people wanted to speak about, which made the reporting quite easy for it in certain ways.
The book begins and ends in Lebanon, where you have been based. I mean, why did Lebanon feel the right place to kind of anchor the book, if you like?
Well, so I've been living in Lebanon since January 2024. And obviously, as we know, the war has escalated and then subsided a bit and then escalated again. And it's been devastating to report on Lebanon. I've been reporting on atrocities, and I've been to so many airstrike sites, I can't count them now. And I've seen really horrific things. But in Lebanon, I've also seen love. I've seen the things that people do to take care of their family members. When I say love, I don't just mean even for people, but like love towards humanity, people taking action to help others in need. And that exists in Lebanon too, right at the moment.
I mean, one of the stories you feature is Bassam and Mariam's story. Bassam became known after storming a Beirut bank, in fact, to try to access his own savings to pay for his father's medical treatment. I mean, beyond that, what did that story reveal to you then about love?
Yeah, so Bassam basically raided a Beirut bank in 2022. His father at the time needed medical treatment, and since 2019, there's been a devastating economic crisis in Lebanon, and the savings of depositors, like people, everybody basically who had money in the bank, lost access to most of their money. And he needed money because his father had these medical needs. He was trying to get his own money, so he decided to raid the bank. He had a gun and a gallon of gasoline, and went inside and started this kind of standoff with the police. And he basically became a national hero. And people were saying, the fact that you've done this, it raised questions about, who are the real thieves in this situation. And so he was one of the first bank raiders, but he wasn't the last. And a lot of people that did this afterwards, they were also trying to help family members who needed medical care. And so, the title of the book is This Is Also a Love Story. You might see this first as a story about the economic crisis, but then you're like, well, what are the motivations of people? And his story is one of those that's told in the book. That, when I met him, we talked about his father as well, and his love for his father and their memories together. And I met his wife as well. And just being able to document their experience, I don't know, I think that it gives people a different insight into what's happening in a place that they might just see as kind of a crisis.
There's another story as well about Syrian families searching for relatives who disappeared under Bashar al-Assad. I mean, you write in particular about Fadwa, smuggled hidden messages to her imprisoned partner for years. What did that story tell you about love under dictatorship, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, Syria shows us in a way how love can be weaponized, because obviously, like, the fact that somebody could be imprisoned close to you, or that they could be tortured, that was used as a tool to control people. But we also saw these, like, kind of very brave and courageous quests for justice and answers, which were particularly driven by women, wives, mothers of those disappeared daughters as well. And I interviewed a few of them, and they told me, like, I write about their stories, but I then also ended up going to Syria the day after the Assad regime fell. That was totally unexpected. Most of this was reported before, and accompanying families as they searched for their missing loved ones.
You also write about a series of other countries: Ukraine, Uganda, Iraq, Japan. Shows how well-travelled you are in your job, I mean, I suppose. But did you find kind of common patterns in the way people try and hold on to hope and to love amid all those crises?
Yeah, I mean, certainly what I found in common was the desire for connection and the desire to actually share experiences. And so in Ukraine, for example, I interviewed a lot of women whose partners ended up fighting on the front line, and they were telling me, we never thought that we would experience this, particularly the war lasting so long, even, the full-scale invasion itself. And actually they wanted to share, what is it like to have this kind of relationship with someone who's never there. One woman asked, "What do you want to know what it's like to be lonely? I'll tell you about that." And again, in Japan, I looked at the aftermath of the tsunami and earthquake, and how people are kind of grieving in a kind of communal way. And they again said, other people might go through this too, and maybe we should share experiences. In Rwanda, I profiled, they call them artificial families. And so it's kind of families, like artificially formed families of genocide survivors who have lost a lot of family members, and a father and a mother is appointed. And I first met them in 2014, and then 10 years later I got in touch with them again. And again, they were saying, maybe this information is helpful to other people in other situations. So you never know when your country might face a crisis. And I think there's definitely a desire to share and to connect and to share human experiences more generally. I mean, love is
So,
universal.
Sally, we're running out of
And
time, but
yeah,
I just want
I
to
see
ask
it
you. I
everywhere.
just want to ask you really quickly. I mean, the title of the book's called "There's Also a Love Story." I mean, is part of your argument think that journalism kind of needs to change the way it's written in order to appeal to people, to hook people in, and to make people think about the real stories?
It's not just hooking people in, but I think it's just showing the actual reality. And sometimes, we do miss this part because it's not, the headlines often are this many people were killed or this many people were injured. We're not showing the kind of complexity of human lives that exist beyond that often. Obviously, some journalism attempts to, but we're limited in our formats and, by a lot of things. And I think, yeah, the argument of the book is this is also a love story, that love exists in all these situations and that love is a motivator and a driver and that it connects us all together. And I hope that people will read it and maybe get more insight into that and have their own thoughts around it as well.
I'm sure they will. Sally Hayden, thank you very much for being with us. This is Also a Love Story, is the book. Sally Hayden, the world-renowned, I think we can say, international journalist, joining us there from London. Thanks very much.